Hey, good morning. So I'm out here, I'm going to show you guys a tank system I just set up. It's 4 20-gallon talls on a sump, and I'm going to show you how I set this up. It's got 3 large filter socks. It's got a 20 um, the smallest Higer DC pump. Let me just show you guys. So what I started with was I'd had this from a previous project, and you can see it just tucks under here, and I got 3 socks. And something I added in was an overflow for in case the socks get totally clogged and the water can't flow to the socks. Well, on this side you get this nice little overflow that flows back into the tank. Something else I've done is it's set up with a float valve to refill. I'll have this connected shortly, and this will be a drain siphon into here, and that drains to my sump. I have this little Higer, I think it's the smallest one they sell, but I have this one running at 40 duty cycle, 40% I think. And I mean, you can see what kind of flow I'm getting out of it. It's pretty amazing for only 12 watts. Something else I did, which is I was really happy with how it turned out, was these are 1-inch bulkheads, but I necked them down to 3/4 tube, because when and if the water level rises too high, you lose your anti-siphon, because this is a hole to let air in so it won't siphon. But if the water level goes above the hole, then it'll start to siphon. Well, you pretty much can't get a siphon going if your drain is too big. So if this was a 1-inch hose instead of a 3/4, it would have a really hard time starting a siphon. So that's why I went with a 3/4. I thought about a 1/2 inch, but I think it would have been way too small. Maybe it would have siphoned all the time. Let me show you guys an example of how this looks when a siphon starts. Like, let's say the water level came up and plugged this. Maybe it won't even go. That's okay. But you know, the one thing I wanted to have was cucumbers sitting on the side, or zucchinis ready for these plecos to eat. I'm gonna have probably 50 full-grown plecos in each tank. This will be for getting them ready to sell. These are gonna be this will be like final storage. You can see these drain screens. I got these from Bulk Reef Supply. They were the 1.5 inch, which gives it lots of surface area in case something gets clogged up. That's a problem I have a lot. The drains will get clogged up, and then next thing you know, you got water rolling over the edge of your tank because the drains can't drain fast enough. Something else that I really like about having a sump with filter socks is it stays perfectly clean. And I got this, it's a what do you call that, a power head. I got a power head connected to 2 sponge filters, and you can see what kind of water flow I'm getting out of it. It's pretty good, and it keeps the tank stirred up and keeps the debris off the bottom, because a little bit, you know, that fine dirt does make it through these. So this has been running about a day so far, and something else I learned when I set these up, I know most people put the threaded part of the bulkhead on the outside of the tank, but I needed a sharp angle, and because this kind of sticks out into the room, and I wouldn't have liked it if it would have stuck out so far before it could have come back to this. It would have taken up too much space in the room. Well, the problem is these bulkheads come with a rubber gasket, and I had those on this side. Well, that doesn't keep, the water can follow the threads all the way through the glass to this if the rubber gasket is on this side. So if you set them up like this, you have to put the rubber gasket against this the flat side of the flange. This would normally be on the inside of the tank anyway, so I thought, put the rubber gasket on the inside. Well, it needs to be on this side regardless. I have a lot more flow capacity with this pump if I do decide to turn it up a little bit. And it's kind of a balancing act. If you set up your drain like this, the water's coming from here. We got anti-siphon, because if you shut the power off and these tips are in the water, then it'll siphon the water back down to the sump through here. Luckily they're not, but it's nice to have anti-siphon anyway, because this is what breaks the siphon, is by having access to the air. I got them on both sides. One side, it's kind of like an air bleed off also, and it's kind of a balancing act between the different valves, because if the water's coming in here, it's going to want to fall into the first hole possible. So you have to close this one up quite a bit, and this one, and if you don't have these closed enough, or if you don't have enough flow coming through here to make it all the way to the end, this one's not going to get any. If you have these open too much, like if this was open all the way and this one was too, these two aren't going to get any water flow. So you have to kind of balance those out. I added these 1/2-inch stubs because I want the water a little bit closer to the tank so it splashes less. It's nice having just a nice little gap, because I get lots of oxygenation like that, but I also don't get too much splashing. You can tell I don't get a lot of splashing. The walls are still pretty dry, and the edges of the tank are pretty good. And something else I'll have is a couple of these little breeder baskets on the side here for fry from the tanks. All my different breeding groups. I got OBs in here, and Damascens and Yellow Labs and Solosi over here, and I have Strabismus corridors in here. So this is my sunroom. This is the south-facing wall and a west-facing wall. So I get quite a bit of heat in here during the day, and that's why I got all these fish up here, because I'll see 76-degree water on a nice sunny day just from the sun coming in and warming the tanks up. So I'll get these full of plecos pretty soon. I'm ready to start moving them up here. I'm kind of working on the cycle. I've thrown a little bit of food in, and you don't want to have 200 plecos in a brand new setup, because then you'll lose, you'll have too much ammonia and nitrites because your bacteria is not ready to keep up. And so far, the main source of the bacteria culture is going to be in these sponges on that power head. But I'd like to get maybe another force-fed setup like this over here to really keep that water stirred up. Because like I said, the dirt definitely comes, the really fine stuff definitely comes through the socks. But thanks for checking this one out. I think this is my best one yet. This is very important to have these smaller drains than what you think, because then when the water backs up, then it helps with that siphon. It'll start that I just want to have this go once so you guys can see it. Sometimes the water gets a little high, and oh, look right here. So watch what happens. There it is. There's the siphon. You can watch that waterfall. You see how quick that's going down? Well, watch what happens when I let off that. It just breaks that siphon and the water stops. So it's natural. You get that nice little hole in the top, and then when the water comes up too high, it'll start the siphon, and when it drops, it stops the siphon. Alright, you guys, thanks for checking it out. Let me know if you have any questions.